Hello, everybody. Today is September 21st, and we're doing... I immediately forgot the sections because we had to do a 30-second thing for the air conditioner. But welcome back to the Level 1 News.
Government social is what we're doing today.
I was new social was one, but I forgot the first. I was going to say business, and I was like, that's not right.
We finally have stock of all of the mouse pads. There's so many.
Yay!
There's so many.
I actually love this one. I have the big one of this at home. I tweeted it the other day. 10 out of 10. If you've been waiting for one of these, they are now back in stock.
Kirsty, you think that's 10 out of 10? Who designed that?
No, it's pretty. It's colorful. It looks nice
but I'm
on the
saying,
desk.
who do we give credit for that? All this praise that you're handing out.
Me and John, our printer. Our printer helps us a lot too. He helps manage the store.
He didn't design it.
No.
She's singing her own praise. Where's
Thank
my
you,
remote?
John.
Oh no, the remote's gone. Ooh, the V8 Energy Orange and Pineapple. I like that.
I thought you'd had that before.
This is a chaotic episode already.
I thought that I had the pure orange one, and I did. I grabbed the orange and pineapple one before. I had to taste it, and then it was like, oh, yeah, I've had this before. This is great.
I remember, you gave that a huge grade.
But on the revised grading thing, is it still an A?
Yeah, this is definitely still an A. Could drink this all day long.
Now,
Taste the calories.
did we consider that diet?
It's kind of juice,
It's
right?
It's not really diet.
It's serving size the whole can?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's not a lot there.
Was it like 8 ounces?
Yeah, this is like one gulp for me.
See, this is what I'd prefer. Like, all drinks should be this size so I could finish them.
That's internationally, that's much more closer to the norm, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
For sugar drinks, at least.
It's like, I'll open like a can of Coke and I can never finish it. So I used to buy the little ones, but those are more expensive, so I don't do that.
It's mostly sweet potato carrot juice, actually, instead of orange pineapple. But, it's fine. It's whatever.
Potato juice?
Sweet potato carrot juice doesn't sound terrible.
No.
Yeah.
If I saw that at the convenience store, I'd be like, maybe I'll try that.
How do you juice it? Do you just blend it?
Alton Brown says the food processor is the key here.
Oh, okay.
You shred it and then smash it, right?
Yeah.
Pulverize it. That requires a lot of sweet potatoes. Maybe I'll grow those next year.
First Alton Brown 37. Yes, the food processor.
When I see food processor or stand mixer on the YouTube recipe, that's where I bail out. It's like it's too involved for me.
I actually had that exact experience yesterday. I was watching a recipe and she was like, just pull out your Vitamix. And I was like, nope, I'm going to stop you right there.
That's too much for me. Well, let's do some government news. We got some FTC action. Lena Khan, as she promised, very busy in her role. Not quite like her predecessors. They were much more low-key. But I don't know if I agree with this one because the word loophole, people talk about tax loopholes, and it's like, well, you change the code every year.
You could close the loophole.
You could simplify it, and I think these loopholes might be by design.
Bloomberg reports that tech giants used quote-unquote loopholes to duck merger reviews, the FTC says. So I looked at this, and I do think that this is by design. Like, this stuff is literally by design. And I think Bloomberg is going the opposite way of, for the hyperbolic words and phrasing to try to get businesses riled up to try to combat this. So what they're saying is that Google and Facebook and a bunch of other companies effectively merged with much smaller companies by just buying them or their products or absorbing their employees or things like that. And it's like, technically that's a merger. And it's like, no, there's a loop that doesn't count as a merger because they bought a product or they bought access or the company agreed to wind down and then do something else. It's not exactly a merger.
Which, by the letter of the law, that's the case. I mean, you can't lay out a system of laws and then when people follow them to the letter, be like, wait a minute, how dare you? You got to change them. And I understand that Lena Khan would change them if she could, but...
Although foreshadowing for our Locast and Arrow callbacks for other videos where it's like, wait a minute, they were following the letter of the law.
Well, that's the problem. Following the letter of the law doesn't guarantee that you'll be left alone. I think the separation there is you have to have like $100 million.
Yeah.
On the other side of $100 million, the rules change a little bit. It's like physics.
I'm going to stir up a $100 million hornet's nest.
A 1 nanometer item and a 1 inch item behave very differently. And you can translate that into business. I keep hitting my water bottle. And we have robust rules about health and health data and stuff like that. Not that it helps us that much because look at all the leaks I mean, come on, and Google's getting it.
And data breaches.
But it raises an interesting question. Is a Fitbit a healthcare app?
Yeah.
They would say no. No, we are not.
Fitbit would say no.
Yeah, but I think the way that they market it and the way people use it, it's a healthcare app.
But
Is it though?
old Shere Khan has other ideas.
FTC warns health apps to notify customers impacted by data breaches. It's like, well, look, they're sharing their anonymized health information. That's not the same as a health application. We don't have to follow the rules when it comes to data breaches and data breach notifications. And the FTC says, yeah, you do.
Reminder, with anonymized health data, that one AI was 98% effective at determining race from your skeleton.
Yeah, we don't know who this person is, but every week they do a jog around this house.
And they have low bone density. And Biden is looking to put another dim on the FTC board.
Look at that. Biden is going to tap Privacy Hawk for the FTC post. So this is another person who has experience with big data analytics and marketing agencies and the stuff that they do, and they're kind of another Lena Khan.
Alvaro Bedoya.
I tried to do a little bit of research on him for this episode, and I did not get very far. So, engagement challenge, what other noteworthy things has this person done? Do they just make a lot of noise, or do they have like a coherent understanding of what's happening with the database?
What would you do if they came in and asked you to be part of the board?
Well, that's crazy.
Run screaming away from it? Yeah, you don't want to be a part of that. Okay, what do they get paid?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Well into 6 figures, I imagine.
I'd say you're doing better. You would be walking away from way more opportunity. Well, no, because you'd have to do the revolving door, though. Are you willing to do that?
No,
to get paid?
I don't. It's also unethical that it's just.
Imagine what you could do for Linode.
I was about to say, I can just imagine you in a hearing or something, and you're just screaming, and they have to pull you out.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Huh. It's like, are you morons? Why? Stop being stupid.
We've asked that he be removed from this hearing.
Well, last week we learned that Locast was temporarily forbidden from operating their system. It was determined that it was a copyright violation, even though, by the letter of the law, like you said earlier,
you're supposed to be able to rebroadcast things that come over the air. That's the whole point of things that come over the air is accessibility to American citizens. But how is that so hard to understand?
It was a temporary shutdown until
Locast's free TV service ordered to shut down permanently after copyright loss. The judge did say, well, you can appeal and you can ask for a stay of this pending the outcome of the appeal. It's worth noting that AT&T literally gave these money people because this was a way that you could get local broadcast channels when AT&T stuff was down. And AT&T, remember, struggling under the crippling weight of maintaining their own copper infrastructure that bought a satellite TV company because, again, they don't want to maintain the copper infrastructure because that costs money. They literally gave these folks money and said, maybe this is the future. Maybe this is what we should do for local broadcast.
Turns out it's not. Well, the NSA, over the years, it's been well documented, have created a lot of evil that was then released unto the world. To very bad effect. Very bad. Unless you're China. They seem to have benefited from it. But it's not just the things they create. It's the people they train.
U.S. fines former NSA employees who provided hacker-for-hire services to the UAE. Not just hacker-for-hire services, they also helped the UAE develop Pegasus-type malware, according to the article. So 3 people, broke U.S. export control laws that require companies and individuals to obtain a special license from the department's Directorate of Defense and Trade Controls before providing defense-related services to a foreign government.
Defense-related.
I really think that stretches things a bit, but they were facing many years of jail time, so they said, you know what, we'll pay the fines, which were a little less than $1 million for each of them.
Paid by the UAE, probably.
Yeah, probably. But they're not allowed to do any of this kind of work again, which is basically like a career death sentence. And they're not allowed to
enforce, though.
Yeah, well, is it? I mean,
they won't be on the contact page for the company, but they might be in the back room.
It said they're not allowed to do anything related to network intrusion stuff or hacking or whatever. So they'll have to find something else to do. But it's not great.
I hear that Uber's having a hard time finding people. Maybe they could try that.
That would be depressing. It's like, I was making $1 million a year from the UAE, and now I have to drive an Uber.
They're always getting 2-star reviews. Won't shut up about the UAE. Well, App Annie, we have referenced them a couple of times, and I remember when all the headlines from App Annie were always big, surprising statistics about the app market, and it's like, wow, that's a crazy number. Wonder how they came up with that. Well, it turns out we might know.
SEC charges App Annie with securities fraud in a $10 million settlement. So it turns out that they're collecting money from people that have apps, if you include the library. But what they were doing with the data and what they were telling their customers they were doing with the data were two completely different things. And that's how they got charged with the securities fraud.
And they were giving you that as if it were research. And it wasn't necessarily the whole picture. So, More and more states are banning the old ICE cars. They don't want those combustion engines. And they've all set these aggressive timelines. New York is the latest.
New York to ban sale of all gas-powered vehicles in state by 2035. Asterisk, that's only consumer vehicles. That doesn't include trucks or anything else. Trucks is 2045 where feasible.
So basically, as usual, the large corporations can continue to do what they want.
Right.
And we bear the inconvenience for it.
Whoa.
Nice.
10 years from now, it's like, will anyone who even passed that still be around? Will they just be like, well, we're going to extend it?
Let's load up Grandma into the e-scooter and go visit the relatives in upstate New York.
Oh, the old Article 230 the argument about that continues to rage. Some places are taking a slightly different tack. They are sort of trying to make it illegal to block certain things.
Texas passes a social media quote-unquote deplatforming law.
So this is like for, political or religious or ideological viewpoints cannot get you banned on social media.
I have a feeling this is not going to work out for them the way
they
imagine.
Expect it. Yeah, it's going to be.
What if they have like a really extremely horribly unpopular viewpoint, like something about, certain minorities are definitely untrustworthy and, really horrible. Like with this, a lot of the really horrible things that 4chan has been deplatformed for, would that make those things okay?
Well, there's definitely two religions over there in the Middle East that are diametrically opposed. If you follow the letter of them, you're kind of going against the other one, right? I mean, most religions are mutually exclusive. Yeah. Almost all of them. How do you not just let them do whatever they want there, huh?
So are you saying that we're going to have some really amazing Hamas stuff on Twitter now in Texas?
Is that still defamation?
I'm imagining like someone making a Facebook group that's like, kill the governor. Would that, like...
How's that religious?
It's not religious, but it's political. Can you deplatform those people under the new law?
They would, I think, and you'd have a hard time. I think really what they just wanted to do here was a light version of it, but when you write the laws, it doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And you're going to get
There's too many edge cases.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Here's a head scratcher. I tried to find a follow-up for this. I still don't think anybody knows what happened here, but we do know what Miley did at the end there. Have you been reading about that?
Yeah.
Oh, he called China.
Oh, yeah.
He had a BFF over there.
I read about that, yeah.
And I think this was a similar thing. I think that this was like temporarily move it to where we can control it, right?
Maybe. A secretive Pentagon program started on Trump's last day in office has just ended. But the mystery has not. Control of a remarkable 6% of the internet was handed over to a Florida company. Yeah, so this is the IP thing that we reported on a while ago. It's like, what? All these Defense Department IP addresses went to some company in Florida, and then now they're back. That's what this article is about.
And it had no storefront. It had no information online. It didn't seem to exist.
The article makes it sound like the company in Florida was doing some kind of BGP route poisoning testing research to see if a foreign government could steal IP address blocks, and if so, what would happen as a result of that. But it's really super unclear.
Now, the Pentagon has said the timing was absolutely a coincidence, had nothing to do with the administration changing. They had planned it well in advance. Do we believe that? I don't know. Seems to be back to normal, though.
Spooky.
And you remember when we had that little trouble in Wisconsin, and a lot of people were out in the streets?
And then they were like, don't film that.
They were like, hey, don't film this, don't report on it, and by the way, we're shutting down air traffic because these drones are showing some pictures that we don't like getting out. Why do I mention that? This feels like an echo.
Biden's FAA replaces temporary ban on drones flying over a bridge packed with illegal immigrants. So at the time we're filming this, the number of immigrants that have shown up at this bridge has doubled in the last few days because they're from Honduras and trying to escape the horrible badness, among other things. And so we've decided that, there's too many people there. We shouldn't fly a drone because that's not safe. Has nothing to do with the fact that things don't look pretty there.
And that administration has promised that we do not have open borders. Pay no attention to the open borders behind the curtain. China has given its citizens an amazing new tool. God, they're so benign and magnanimous, the CCP. They're so nice to give people this tool to prevent fraud.
A popular Chinese anti-fraud app has been slammed by Western media as a tool to track access to foreign websites. So this is a tool you install and it's like, oh, no, that's fraud. That's not right. But it goes off when you access Western financial sites to show you the state of the Western financial markets or Western banking sites or any number of other things.
Well, it doesn't go off in terms of, it doesn't warn you.
Yeah, the independent thought alert button is what's being pressed in the background there.
But there is an alert. There's a push notification going to someone else. So this person, one of the people interviewed, described they went to Bloomberg.com. They were an investor. They wanted to see what Bloomberg had to say. A couple days later, they got a visit.
Oh.
And they were asked why they felt the need to visit Bloomberg.com. Because that is a Western website that is critical of the CCP and should not be visited.
Well, the dream of the internet's dead, isn't it?
Yes.
There's a lot of quotes in here of people who are praising this.
How impressive is it that they could send a wellness check to your house to make sure that you weren't being defrauded by Bloomberg? That's amazing.
Feels a little bit like astroturfing.
I mean, that would be amazing if, when my mom gets calls from the tech support scammer Indians that, the police show up and they're like, we detected that you got a call from the tech support scammer. You didn't give him any credit card numbers or anything, did you? No, we just, all right, well, that's good. Oh.
I imagine that's how it starts, right? A well-meaning Chinese developer comes up with something, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have a lot of old people who are falling victim to this kind of thing. I have a good idea. And then when it gets to the other end, the anti-Bloomberg team has their hooks into it. What are you going to do?
And that guy's, getting his liver chopped out somewhere.
What is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions? What happens when it's paved with also bad intentions?
And ground Uyghur bones also mixes heavily into that mixture. Well, the Dutch have made a decision that many other countries have already kind of made.
Uber drivers are not employees, or are employees, not contractors, says Dutch court. So this is pretty interesting to read in. They basically did like a 9-point analysis of why they're actually employees and not contractors. And it's because they don't really have as much say as the company likes to pretend that they have. So they can't be contractors. They have to have similar rights and salaries as other people in the taxi type industry, which could impact Uber's bottom line to the tune of $750 million.
I have a feeling they're going to be losing a lot of those cases. And China, now that they've entered into this new phase of getting rid of the girly men and all the distractions and really sharpening up their populace, cryptocurrency is one of the big things that they've got their sights set on because it uses a lot of electricity, and they're a little worried about the winter coming up. So what do? You call the guys that worked on the Bloomberg project.
China has intensified the hunt for cryptocurrency miners in hiding. So some people are playing it fast and loose. They're saying, we're data researchers. We need to be able to do big data research. And that's still allowed. And you could have a huge farm of GPUs in order to do that. Well, they're cracking down on that because they've already busted several people that have said that they're researchers or whatever, and they've confiscated the equipment. And oh boy, it's a mess.
But think how warm those people will be cuddled up next to their farm.
This is your emergency winter shelter / Bitcoin mining farm. So it's like, okay. You know how we have the tornado shelters in like the government buildings? They're built to withstand earthquakes and tornadoes and stuff. That's how just like the Chinese government buildings have a basement
They
for
build
mining.
apartments around the Bitcoining mining area.
It's like that game that we played that had the furnace in the middle, and it's like it kept getting,
Frostpunk.
Yeah.
They couldn't be too far out from the radius or they'd freeze to death, and then morale would go down.
I think morale is already pretty low.
Yeah.
Parts of China.
Don't worry, they'll harvest organs before you have a chance to die when you get really far out.
And one group that's really probably feeling that morale hit. It's a tough day at the office over at Alipay. There's no cake in the conference room today.
Oh.
China will reportedly break up the Ant Group's Alipay and force creation of a new loans app. And you'll never guess who's going to be on the board of that new company.
In fact, they're going to own what, like 27% of it?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant chunk.
And if you really can't guess, it's the Communist Party.
That really sucks because their web team was doing a good job with CSS libraries and like lots of reusable stuff. I really liked some of the stuff that the Ant Group was doing in terms of like, here's a reusable web widget for doing whatever. It's like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, the people of China liked it too. A little too much.
Yeah.
The other prong of, getting the girly men back into their masculine shape and making them killers is to stop them from wasting their time on these stupid video games.
China's regulators said to slow their approval of new online games as Beijing's campaign against gaming addiction heats up. Remember, 3 hours a week. That's all you get.
If you're underage.
If you're underage.
Yeah.
SCMP reports this as slow, but all the paywalled American news sources said no more games till further notice. They're not approving anything for a license right now. And Tencent was at this meeting, and you got to think that was like, oh, boy.
I wonder if Activision's rethinking their strategy in the last few years. They're like, oh, should we have not bowed down to China's whims? Was that a bad strategy?
Actually, we kind of have stuff like that here in America where, the thing that got in is still allowed. But if new things try to enter that market, it's basically not allowed to by law. So, if Fortnite was already on the approved list, well, we see like Fortnite Cyberpunk 2077 and like Fortnite Tomb Raider and Fortnite something else as like we stuff more and more franchises into the husk of the old game.
Nah, I bet they wouldn't let them get away with that. I bet you have to. There's probably like an amount of code that changes or something, right?
Yeah.
That probably doesn't exist yet, but it will.
Yeah.
Somebody will be forced to come up with that.
I want to be a new broadcast TV provider that uses the airwaves to like send stuff to everybody free in America. That's not going to happen.
Or it'll be like Microsoft, and the CCP will be like, I don't know, this one boot texture changed. New operating system. I've never seen this hardware before. And they claim that the communists are trying this misinformation operation in order to divide us over what's going on in this country. I think we were already on a pretty good path to that.
They don't need to put any fuel on that fire.
Yeah, you think this team, they keep getting glowing reviews from the party, and they're like, we're not doing anything. Should we tell them?
We've been playing solitaire at work all day.
We've been coming up with edgy artwork. Pro-China misinformation operation attempting to exploit U.S. divisions because of the thing, report says. Now, if you read the article, it's more than just the thing. It's also a couple of other things that are happening, like protests. One of the things was trying to stir up protests because of all the incidents with Asian Americans here because people are crazy. And the article says they haven't been super successful with that.
But the big focus, obviously, is the source of the pandemic. They are really, really critical of sources that say it came from one specific place, which seems like a really good theory. India and Singapore are BFFs, and they've just made it official.
India and Singapore to link their payment systems to enable instant and low-cost cross-border transactions. It's like the EU, but not Europe. The AU. That's gold.
And Australia.
Oh
no! Look at that. You didn't lose a drop.
I kicked something a second ago. You dropped something. Wendell's knocking over cans. We're just a mess today.
It's been a very long week. I'm very tired. I didn't sleep the best. It's just Woo!
Well, South Korea is going to levy a fine against Google in our Fine of the Week.
South Korea's antitrust regulator fines Google $177 million for abusing mobile market dominance. So this is actually a multi-pronged fine. It has to do with not just the App Store, but also how it treats developers and also how it partners with Samsung on modified versions of the Android operating system. Now, most of that I don't have a problem with, but the one elephant in the room is Samsung actually taking Android and doing all these terrible things to it and then making it very difficult for you to use something else on your device. Because like if you try to unlock the bootloader, remember it disables the camera and does a lot of really other stuff. But this ruling says, no, Samsung should be allowed to modify Android however they want to so that they have something that kind of competes. And Google in their agreement says, no, you must not fragment Android. You must not run other things. You must not develop your own stuff that supplants the Android experience. I kind of think that Google should be allowed to do that as part of their product terms.
It's weird that the South Korean government would be so on the same page as Samsung like that.
It's also interesting that they sort of wrapped that, like that I think is the larger part of the ruling, but they wrapped it in kind of this donut of, oh, let's talk about app antitrust because that's the new hotness that everybody else is talking about. And then you read it and it's like, well, this mostly doesn't have to do with apps.
But Samsung is doing to the consumer what Google is doing to Samsung.
Yeah, they're angry
Yes.
because Google got in first.
Yeah.
Yeah. As someone that's been on the receiving end of Samsung's vision for what a mobile phone experience should be, I don't want that. I think that's bad.
Let's be fair. Google's vision, not much better.
Agreed.
Well, Russia is much like China and some of these other nations. They are very intolerant of social media who will not bend to their will. And they told them a while back, they were like, listen, we don't like something, you take it down or you get a fine. Well,
Russia fines Facebook and Twitter for not deleting banned content. The fines were really pretty trivial, though.
but they will persist. It's every day, right?
Yeah, it's like $20,000 a day.
That'll add up.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Just whip out my investment calculator. If I were to make 20 grand a day, yeah, I'd do pretty good. Kazakhstan, that country that no one had ever heard of until it became a punchline, is now constantly in the news. And they are also struggling with social media. I think it's old world, new world kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kazakhstan moves to restrict foreign social media usage. This is because of memes and negative things that happen, and they're just not sure if people are disrupting their local infrastructure.
Kazakhstan's parliament has some good looking buildings. They look just a touch Soviet.
That's probably the intent.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's their history. I mean, it makes sense.
And Brazil is basically having the same fight, but taking it a little further.
Brazil's president banned social networks from removing some posts. Now, we've talked about the Texas law where it's like, oh, you can't deplatform. They kind of already had that problem with some of these posts from the people inside Brazil. So they didn't deplatform anybody from Brazil. They just deleted the nonsense. We're like, all right, we're not going to let you not post, but we're just going to delete the nonsense every time you post something that's nonsense. So we have this, which is kind of backwards. It's like, you will not delete the nonsense that we post.
But the guy in power is, what they would consider to be a right-wing type of guy. So a lot of his stuff and his supporters are getting suppressed because obviously Facebook, leans the other way. So he's saying, no, you can't delete anything. Which, that's going to lead to other problems for sure. They also have a big election coming up, which might have something to do with this.
This is going to disrupt everything.
And El Salvador, thank you MSN for giving us the gender, has their whole their Bitcoin thing going on. And it was the big dream. Hey, we're going to use the volcano. We're going to give everybody, what was it, like $30?
$30.
American dollars, which is not a trivial amount, and here in El Salvador. And day one, we saw last week, didn't go great. But then they had a couple more days to get it all put together, and, well...
El Salvador's Bitcoin digital wallet beset by technical glitches. So some people tried to buy a pizza with it, and they didn't have their $30. Ooh, they're trying. It's like 6 continuous days.
Couldn't get registered. Sometimes you'd get registered and they would say that the account was already taken. And then sometimes you'd get everything working correctly, but your $30 never showed up.
They're working on it, they say.
It's going to be a long weekend for them.
Yeah, I'd say
It's been a long 6 days.
Yeah.
at this point on Friday, they're probably like, yeah, we'll deal with this Monday. I got to go spend my $30.
Which they made sure came through
Yeah.
on their account.
And the big tech headline, maybe the story of the week, not in my world, but you know, in the tech world, was the whole Instagram teen girl thing.
We have 3 different stories about the same event.
Yeah.
We do, yeah.
So first, we find out about the research.
Facebook is now under more scrutiny after its own research shows that Instagram is harmful to teens. Instagram says it's committed to understanding complex issues young people may struggle with. U.S. lawmakers want more answers. Is this the one where it was the 1 in 3 young girls have worse body image issues as a result of this?
Right,
Yeah.
that's the whole crux of all of these stories.
I don't think men are immune to it either, but I think it's more prevalent among teen girls.
Oh, yeah, way more body image stuff on girls. No question about it.
A lot more abject cruelty from teen girls too, probably.
I mean, I don't buy into the whole, like, you know, patriarchy, male privilege thing. But in this case, absolutely, you got to admit, girls have it a lot worse. But isn't it true that the magazine industry has been guilty of this for decades?
Yes.
So
Well, our whole society's that way. I mean, like,
Yeah.
women are more valued for their looks than anything else they contribute.
in some cases. And but when you talk about, okay, we got a big headline here. It's social media, it's big tech, it's children, and these Congress people are just like fighting against the leash. Like, let me get it. Let me go.
Congress will investigate claims that Instagram harms teens. Democrats call on the company to abandon Instagram for kids. Let me just back up here for a second. Let me tell you what's actually going on. The Congress critters have realized how much power social media wields. And they have realized this might be the cudgel that they need to use to beat Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg about the head and face in order to win their next election. It was never about the safety of children.
Now, the big problem that Instagram has here is that they had this gentleman here, I guess he's the CEO, right? He made some comments before all this happened, but just slightly before. And, they were not good comments in this context.
The headline from Mashable is, Instagram boss says that social media is like cars. People are going to die. That's not actually exactly what he said.
It's kind of
It's
close. Kind of what he said.
It's close. He said social media is like cars. They have a tremendous benefit, but may require some regulation, otherwise people will die.
But I will say this, and when we talk about dying, in this context, we're talking about suicide, right?
Yeah.
Young girl, bad body image, something happens, she's depressed, she kills herself. But, and a lot of people made the obvious comparison here that they're like, yeah, the car industry, one of the most regulated industries in the world, which, you know, that's fair. But I've lost my original thought there.
It's been that kind of week.
Oh, people are going to... So, the Level 1 forum, right?
Right.
We have like this tiny, tiny, tiny microcosm of what these people are dealing with. And the mental problem people, they will always be there. They are ever present. And nothing you do will stop them from killing themselves. So, like, can we really put it on Instagram to take on teen girl depression? That's a perennial thing anyway, right?
Again, I think this is a cudgel that lawmakers will use to do whatever.
To do whatever they want, yeah.
The contrast with the auto industry, to your point, is we're able to empirically measure those things. It's like, should we change the internal structure of a vehicle so that in a head-on collision, the passenger compartment is less likely to crumple? We can put in crumple zones where the engine and things like that will fold in on itself. We can reinforce the firewall so that it will be safer. We can scientifically and empirically measure these things. Thus far, it's just, you know, some politician doing a knee-jerk thing saying, that seems like that's bad because I should be able to say this.
But let's say they come and they tap you on the shoulder and they're like, all right, it's your job. How do we fix this?
We don't even have the science to do the safety thing.
Yeah.
The only thing you could do, I think, if you were Instagram is remove a lot of, like, the filters. So like the way Instagram works is you can take pictures of yourself, but like everything's so filtered and blurred and like distorted. And that's stuff that's features in the app. You could tell them to remove that, but I mean, people will just go to other apps and
the real
change
fix,
the image.
The real fix is to make it so that we as a society don't put so much emphasis on those things.
Yeah, but that's a huge problem to solve that you can't really solve through legislature, I don't think.
Let's root out the mammalian nature from all of these humans.
We're going to have our lizard forebrain surgically removed.
Can I upload an image to Instagram that I didn't just take with my phone? That's possible,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the filter thing won't work.
Yeah.
No,
I'll just
not
take
fully,
it somewhere
no.
else.
Yeah. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head that like you could ask Instagram to do, but I mean, it doesn't solve the problem.
Well, the same way, I mean, a lot of these kind of studies ultimately led to things like seat belts. Like in the beginning, it was like, why would anybody even conceive of doing a thing like a seat belt? And then later it was like, you know what, seat belts are a good idea. And then, initially it was across your lap. And then it was like, well, we probably need a 3-point harness.
Yeah. I remember in the 80s, a lot of people were anti-seatbelt. They're like, no, it'll cut you in half. And I think that maybe happened one time. And that's when they were like, oh, we should put the strap on your shoulder as well.
Yeah, I remember my cousin saying that, and that was like in the late 90s. I was like, I don't think that's a thing.
I think maybe it did happen one time.
Yeah, like in the 80s. Neither of us were alive at that point.
And we did have my parents had a Mercury Cougar, and I was in the back of that tank with that little belt strap all around me, just like, just whipping around.
Having a good time.
Yeah, we thought it was great.
I remember, the family truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation. We literally had a vehicle like that.
The station wagon?
Yeah, and I remember it was like, just climb in the back, and it's like, there's not even a seat back here. It's just flat. And they're like, it's fine.
It was rear facing.
Yeah.
We used to just ride in the back of trucks too, like just to go to the video store or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see that anymore.
I think that
pulled
is
over.
illegal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I see
It wasn't for a long time.
I see a lot of lawn crews doing that.
Yeah.
Well, we found out during the last election, or I guess it was the one before that, right? That some Facebook users get to break the rules because we had the big Donald Trump argument. Should he or should he not be allowed on Facebook doing the things he was doing? Ultimately, they decided no, but it turns out he's not the only one on the VIP list.
Facebook allowed some high-profile users to break the rules. X-Check system whitelists well-known users who were given special treatment, the Wall Street Journal report says. Yes, I believe that as long as Level 1 has been doing the news, we've said that Facebook treats some people different than others. We know.
Is that everywhere? Like, I mean, Twitter's the same way.
It's like, there's no way that you're going to get this approved. This is against the rules. And then you talk to somebody at Facebook, and they're like, for you, it's probably all right.
So here's the scenario. Brazilian footballer
His name was in there, but it's gone now.
Neymar, I guess he just operates with one name. He must be really good. Had some sexual assault allegations made against him by a woman. So he got on Facebook and he said, no, that was consensual. Let me prove it. And then he held his phone up to the camera, scrolling through, showing the nudes that she had sent him. Now that is considered revenge porn by Facebook standards. She gave him the nudes, but then he shared them with the world. So by default, that should have been taken down. But when the moderators went to try to take it down, he's on the list. He's allowed to do these things.
Hey, it's just like real life where there are two sets of rules for the rich and powerful versus the rest of us.
So for
Yay.
2 days, they could not take down that girl's nudes. It was in a video, but still. And so now she has obviously responded to that, and they're in a tight place here. What do you do? And the people at Facebook that were interviewed under anonymity, they were like, the biggest problem with the VIP list, it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
We can't stop. They just keep adding to it. You think anybody ever falls off the list?
Yes.
Other than Donald Trump?
That's what I was going to say.
I feel like he took it to, like, how extreme do you have to be, though? Like, it seems like you can really just push it and push it and push it, and they just don't care.
No, I'm thinking maybe like because of age or obscurity or something like that. Do you ever get
Delisted.
You're not famous enough to be on the list anymore?
I guess you have to. Someone who's a D-list celebrity should try to do that. Like, slowly start posting more and more extreme content to see what the line is.
Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Well, Facebook, for a couple of weeks in a row, definitely during the whole summer, we've been seeing this very contentious relationship they have with researchers. There were 2 different apps that researchers created and let people voluntarily take part in just to get data that they know Facebook will not give them. But Facebook does give data to some people. However,
Facebook made a big mistake in the data that provided to researchers, undermining academic work. So it has to be a random sampling. They went ahead and filtered results that they knew were not great. So it wasn't a random sampling anymore.
well, there was political data, and they left out anybody that the algorithm couldn't pigeonhole as Democrat or Republican. If the algorithm couldn't peg you in terms of your
But it's not random anymore.
not at all. It's cherry picked. Thus the researchers' anger. I wonder what's cutting those people out of the data. You think that would show maybe good things for Facebook, though, wouldn't it? It would show people who are in the median and not crazy.
Yeah, you would think that would actually work out better.
You'd
in their
want
favor.
more people. Who
Why
are
would they
somewhere in the middle.
pull that out? Are they looking for these headlines?
They're probably just dumb.
Maybe. It could have been an honest mistake. Just,
Never attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by stupidity.
And Twitter, the blue check, after so long, is back within your reach.
Oh, it's off again.
Oh, did
Twitter
they?
reopens its account verification process after another pause, and it's paused again.
How many entries do you think they got the first day?
Like 1 million.
Why do people care that much?
My whole feed was like, I applied for, verified again, and they turned me down.
Because we're social animals, Krista, and it's screwing us up living like we are. We desperately need the pack. I mean, some people do.
Who needs? But the blue check is nothing.
It means something.
Does it?
Does it?
What does having a swoosh on your shoes mean?
Listen, I'm addicted to Twitter more than most people. I don't even care about the blue swoosh.
You wouldn't turn it down. Do you have one?
No, I don't.
Oh.
You have to apply for it. I think you have to give them a bunch of information about where you are and stuff. It's like, who wants that?
Yeah, screw that. I was barely able to get Facebook set up the other day.
I was reading that article, and you know what you have to do to register for the check now? Got to use the app. You can only register for the check through the app.
Well, I guess I'll have to buy a phone just to be able to.
A burner phone. Well, Wendell, one thing that, you've never really vocalized this, but contextually over the years, we've definitely gotten a feel that you have this very extreme feeling about public bathrooms.
Yeah.
And I imagine this really touches something, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Sets
just
you off.
Forget this. Devious lick, quote unquote, TikTok challenge hits Elk Grove and San Juan school districts. So the article missed this. There's a video that was going around on Twitter yesterday where the school principal comes on the thing and he starts out really calm and he's like, I understand there's a new challenge, whatever, and then he's like, somebody took the soap dispensers and he's just screaming into the thing.
It's not just bathrooms either, and this is everywhere because a lot of my friends in this area who are teachers have posted saying parents, please check your kids' TikToks. We're losing so much crap at school. One of my friends had bought snacks for his class, and he said he went to check the cabinet the other day, and they were all gone. They'd all been deviously licked.
Wait a minute. So devious licking is also theft? I thought it was just vandalism.
No, it's just theft.
Just that.
A devious lick. So you pull it, you take your TikTok video, and you're like, look at my hot new devious lick, and it's something you stole from somewhere.
But these people trashed the bathrooms as well.
Yes. Well,
I think it's just general, but I've always heard it in the context of theft.
I understood the bathroom trashing to be a side effect of trying to steal the soap dispenser.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably just got their blood up, their kids, and they just kept destroying. I can see that. Yeah.
I have to say, this is a horrible trend, but I do love the term devious lick.
It's great.
It's really good, yeah.
It's got all the hallmarks of a perfect online challenge.
Yeah.
It's mindlessly destructive. It's got a great name. It's entertaining. To be honest.
A middle-aged principal screaming into
Yeah.
the PA system will only encourage the behavior.
The authorities are completely baffled by it. That's an important part of it.
Yeah. The theft isn't cool, but what a great name, Devious Lick. Check out my Devious Licks.
I can only visualize Gordon Freeman with his crowbar, but he's got sort of the deranged look in his eyes, and he's licking the crowbar. That's what when I read that, that's what I visualized.
Next time you steal some code from Stack Overflow, put a comment and it's deviously licked from.
And his pockets are just bursting with middle school snacks and milks.
cheesy crackers.
Oh man, this is the deviously licked milk from last year. It's now yogurt.
So yeah, wow, that's a terrible thing to do.
You know, this wouldn't be a problem if we had punishments like kidney harvesting after you do something like this.
Yeah, but those young kidneys, you need time to develop those.
I was trying to determine when I was reading about some of these stories. I saw the devious lick thing a little bit ago, but like, do you think that arose organically, and it's just kids being awful as you are when you were a kid?
Or was this a brilliant disinformation campaign from those Chinese people?
Yes, I was like, that's the darker timeline, but I was like, I don't think that's probably what happened, but you do wonder.
If we have these government agencies that work with our alphabets, or these companies that work with our alphabets, who are able to follow a single transaction through multiple blockchains, right? All the way back. How can they not track this down to the original hashtag?
It seems like that would be doable.
It seems like TikTok would just have that data, right?
If it turns out to be some operations group in a foreign country, does that result in a nuclear incident?
I don't think you nuke over this.
No, if that is what it is, and it's probably not. That is so insidious to be like, let's start training the youth to just destroy stuff now.
Tactical drone strike.
I mean, it's probably just kids being stupid. But
here's what we've got to do. Let's assume this was China and just go with it. We've got to come up with a viral challenge and we'll sell it to them as a way to fight back against the video game ban.
So what you're saying is we need to come up with something that's like the Pokemon Go game, but somehow targets critical electrical and fiber optic infrastructure in China.
Okay, you're on the right track. I'm going to swerve it a little bit, right? It's Pokemon Go, but all the Pokemon are in the Uyghur camps. So you're taking pictures of war crimes and stuff, and you think that you're playing a game. And then we feed all those back to our server.
Just a tiny little augmented reality icon there that's like, oh, you got it, good job. And then it's like, oh.
If you work in the government, we're available for hire.
All right, that's enough nonsense for today.
Dark. That went into a weird place. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.